In the last video I noticed that my speech quality was pretty shitty, basically it just hurted also my ears, but this time I hopefully don't mess anything up. But anyways, welcome to the second part of the life of Panzerschiff Deutschland. And yes, this will be 3 parts, just like the life of SMS Prince Eugen documentary, but anyways, in this part we are gonna jump into World War II era and her deployment in Norway and many other incidents that happened to her during World War II. Let's just get into the main video, so enjoy! A week before Germany began its invasion of Poland, Deutschland set off for south of Greenland. There she would be ready to attack Allied merchant ships if the invasion of Poland escalated into a larger conflict. And of course it escalated, what did you expect? The supply ship Weserübung was ordered to support Deutschland for the duration of the operation. Before Deutschland set off from Wilhelmshaven, her Heinkel HE-60 biplane was replaced by an Arado AR-196 seaplane with a closed cockpit. HE-60 was already old equipment at this point. Deutschland and Weserübung reached the Atlantic Ocean and were near Greenland by August 30th. Deutschland was given orders to follow price rules. Whatever that means, I don't know either. This consists of stopping and searching ships for contraband and other items before sinking the ship, but this was not done before the crew was evacuated. So basically the crew was evacuated before they sunk the ships. Deutschland was also ordered to not engage in combat with ships from an inferior navy, because disrupting merchant ships was Kriegsmarine's main objective. Hitler hoped to be able to negotiate off peace with Britain and France after conquering Poland. Because of that, he wanted Deutschland to begin her first mission to fight the English and French ships on September 26. At this point, Deutschland had already moved into the south of the sea lane between Bermuda and Azores. On October 5th, Deutschland found the British freighter Stonegate. The freighter did send a distress signal other ships in the area telling them about Deutschland's presence, but that didn't do much and Stonegate met her watery fate. Deutschland, not wanting to be found, went north on the Halifax shipping route. Only 4 days after she sank Stonegate, Deutschland found more so-called fresh blood in the form of the American freighter named City of Flint. A search of the ship was conducted and contraband was found. Some of Deutschland's crew took over as the new prize crew of City of Flint, and Flint's original crew were taken as prisoners. But however, Norway intervened and seized the ship while it was anchoring in Haugesund, and its control was returned to its original owners. But while this was happening, on October 14th, Deutschland sank the Norwegian Navy ship Lawrence W. Hansen, whose cross register number was 1918. Also on the same day, Deutschland stopped the steamer Kongsdal, which belonged to Denmark. But when it became clear to the Germans that the ship was on its way to neutral port, Lawrence W. Hansen's captured crew members were placed aboard Kongsdal and they were allowed to continue their journey. But later, Kongsdal decided to be a snitch and told the British Royal Navy about it and confirmed that Deutschland was a raider in the North Atlantic. Severe weather was bogging down Deutschland's mission. However, she was still able to stop some British warships that were tasked to track her. The French force, the raid being led by battleship Dunkirk, were ordered to protect convoys near Britain from Deutschland. In November, Deutschland was recalled and returned on November 17th. During this mission, she sank only 2 vessels and captured 1. When Deutschland had arrived in Germany, she was re-rated as a heavy cruiser and renamed Lützow. So, because of this name change, I will use the name Lützow and not Deutschland. This name change was Hitler's trick, and his reason was that the sinking of the ship is possible and it would be propaganda disaster if it carried the name of its own country. Grand Admiral Erich Raeder also hoped that renaming the ship would confuse Allied intelligence. The original Lützow, which was one of the Admiral Hipper-class heavy cruisers, was ordered to be sold to the Soviet Navy in 1940. And using its name for Deutschland was hoped to hide the trade between Germans and Russians. The other Lützow was named Tallinn later. Since Lützow had returned unnoticed to Germany, changing her name would lead the British to believe that Deutschland was still in the Atlantic, and they ordered their forces to search Deutschland from there. Before Lützow went into the port for repairs, she participated in the North Sea operations of the Kriegsmarine, and she would support Scharnhorst and Gneisenau's attack on the Northern Patrol. When the Germans planned the invasion of Norway, it would come true with the landing of 6 fleets at Narvik, Trondheim, Bergen, Kristiansand, Oslo and Egersund. Originally, Lützow was assigned to Group 2 with Admiral Hipper, and their mission was to occupy Trondheim. The landing in Trondheim was successful, and Lützow was then assigned to the Atlantic for trade camping. But cracks were found in Lützow's diesel engines, which dropped her speed to 21 knots and required further repairs in Germany. The Battle of the Atlantic was cancelled because of this, and Lützow was transferred to Group 5 with heavy cruiser Blücher and light cruiser Emden, and torpedo boats Albatros, Condor and Möven with Konteradmiral Oskar Kummets. And by the way, Konteradmiral means Rear Admiral if I am correct. Kummets waved his flag at Blücher's mast, and Group 5 was tasked with capturing Oslo and transporting over 2,000 Wehrmacht mountain soldiers. Lützow took 400 soldiers to a holiday trip to Norway. During the Battle of the Atlantic in 1939, after all Lützow's negative experiences when her single AR-196 kept breaking down, Lützow received a new spare of AR-196, which was thought behind a stack. In the cover of the night, the British submarine HMS Trident was being nosy and spotted Group 5 and identified Lützow as the main threat, even though Blücher is literally right there. Trident fired 10 torpedoes at Lützow, but they all missed. Lützow continued forward on a zigzag route and sailed away. The German torpedo boat took care of Trident and they continued on. At nearly midnight of April 8th, Group 5 passed Norwegian coastal batteries, and Blücher was leading them onward with Lützow behind her. Group 5 headed straight to Oslo Fjord, and the Germans made contact with the Norwegians. The Norwegians immediately opened fire upon Group 5. This started the Battle of Drøbak Sound, and Blücher was hit by many shells and 2 torpedoes. Blücher capsized and sank. When Blücher sank, Germany lost about 1,000 soldiers and sailors, and Lützow was hit by shells from Oscarsport's 15 cm Kopos battery and caused significant damage to Lützow, but did not sink her. The forward guns of Lützow were hit and damaged to the point where the center turret couldn't be used. Another shell hit her and started a fire in the operating theater and the hospital. A third shell was fired and it hit her superstructure and behind the aircraft crane on her port side. In the end, 6 were killed and 10 were wounded, and 2 soldiers were killed when the second shell hit the hospital and operating theater, and 4 gunners were killed by the third shell. Lützow could only fire her secondary battery with fire against fire. However, its severe damage forced her to leave the fjord. She got to Verle Bay with the troops, and she used her operational 28 cm guns to support the troops. By the afternoon of April 9, most of the Norwegian fortresses had been successfully captured by the Germans, and the commander of the remaining Norwegian forces began surrender negotiations. Although Norway surrendered, their resistance had successfully delayed the German forces and given the government and the royal family more than enough time to escape from Oslo. Other than Blücher now resting in the ocean and Lützow being severely damaged, Group 5 was relatively fine. Kriegsmarine asked Lützow to come back to Germany to get repairs done. Lützow did so, and the remaining members of the Group 5 stayed in Norway. Lützow was given no escorts and only relied on her max speed to avoid any enemy submarines. On April 11th, the British submarine HMS Spearfish spotted Lützow trying to limp her way back to Germany and opened fire. Spearfish launched a torpedo at Lützow's stern, causing it nearly to fall off and blew up her steering gear. Now obviously, since she can't move anymore due to her steering gear being blown away, Lützow had to be towed back to home. August Thiele was awarded with Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross for taking command of the task force after the loss of Blücher. But even though Thiele was awarded, sadly 34 sailors passed away during this time on Lützow. 19 of the 34 were killed during the attack on Oslo Fjord, and the remaining 15 were killed by the torpedo launched by Spearfish. British bombers attacked Lützow whenever she was at Drøbak and Kiel dockside. On July 8th, the British bomber managed to hit Lützow's bow, but the bomb did not explode. Lützow returned to operations on March 31st, 1941 under the command of a new commander, Kapitan zur See or KZS Leo Kreis. Originally, Kriegsmarine had planned to send her on a raiding operation against merchant ships. However, Admiral Scheer had successfully completed the operation already during March. Admiral Scheer should next join Lützow's operation in July 1941. Despite the battleship Bismarck's success and Hitler's order not to take risks with bigger vessels, Lützow left on June 12 for Operation Sommerreise. The German destroyers Z-10 Hans Lodi, Z-16 Friedrich Eckholt, Z-20 Karl Galster, Z-23 and Z-24 led Lützow. These two last destroyers didn't have any special names, by the way. The destroyers were supposed to escort Lützow as far as Norway. In the Denmark Strait, U-79 and U-559 were detached from the Atlantic operation for reconnaissance for this operation. During the night, however, the British Bristol Beaufort torpedo bomber found Lützow off Egersund. It aborted its mission, leading the Germans to believe that it was a Luftwaffe patrol plane, and then scored a hit, and it knocked out the electrical system and Lützow was unable to move. 3 sailors were wounded and Lützow listed badly to port, and her port propeller shaft was damaged. The Germans quickly activated the smokescreen generated from the torpedo hit, and it caused another attacking bomber to pass the ship. The crew made emergency repairs that allowed Lützow to return to Germany. Lützow had to be repaired again in Kiel, and they were completed 6 months later. Lützow was finally declared operational on May 10, 1942. And we have reached the end of the second part. And I want to thank you, Rea, again for helping me with these scripts, so thank you. And I thank you all for watching this video if you were interested. Subscribe my channel and like the video if you haven't already, but nobody forces you to do that. But my name is Fireiktronomia and we see you in the next video. Bye.